Good morning. Happy Growth and Grace Day and happy 4th of July. It is Thursday, July 4th today, so we are celebrating. Um, Most people are celebrating by sleeping in, probably, and I kind of thought about doing that because I didn't have anything else going till later this morning, but you know what? It works out great because then I get to stay consistent for you guys. So, and for myself, because that really actually does help to have consistent things throughout the week. And that is something I actually talked about yesterday with a girlfriend that is slightly off topic from what today's Growth and Grace is about, but I think it's worth mentioning. The discipline of working from home. And one of the things that she was asking me about it, she's like, how do you wake up in the morning? Like, what is that about? That sounds terrible. She's a night owl and I'm an early bird. So I told her, you want to have me go to an event that starts like after 8 p.m. And that just sounds terrible because I got to really prep my day around staying awake that late. 8 p.m. I can handle, but like you want me to stay at the event and be there till like 9 or after. That's where I really start. Like, you can tell I am tired. Anyway, side note, but the discipline comes in with setting things up each day that have me get up and get ready for my day. So that's what really helps me, even on the days where I'm like, oh, I would really rather sleep in. And most of the days, honestly, even as an early bird, when my alarm goes off, most of the time, as much as I enjoy my days and I like want to get up and get started, most of the time I would rather stay sleeping and hit the like go away alarm, turn you off button and go back to bed. So just know that just because someone is an early bird or just because they're an early riser doesn't mean that we like don't like sleeping or that it's just super easy for us to pop out of bed. I can pop out of bed and be wide awake. Most of the time I'd rather stay sleeping though. So it just takes practice. And for those of you who are night owls and you want to become early birds, or vice versa, I guess either way, it just start in little increments. So start setting your alarm, like 15 minutes earlier than you would. Do that for a few days, kind of get on a new cycle. Keep going to bed at the same time you normally would. This doesn't mean you're just like giving up sleep and like you get to stay up way later and you have to get up earlier. Like, plan accordingly, but ease yourself into it. Don't think if you normally wake up at 11 a.m. that you just have to pop up at 5 a.m. now moving forward. That's a huge adjustment and not one easily taken on by your body. So anyway, total side note, not remotely what we're talking about today, but I guess depending on how awkward you thought that was, maybe it is something that we're talking about today, because today we're talking about being awkward and running with it. And this is the conversation, this is inspired by a conversation that I was having with a few girlfriends yesterday around just different awkward scenarios that we've found ourselves in or different things that we've, seen other people go through and just how gracefully they handled it. And there's totally a way to handle it gracefully. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others for the graceful part to kick in, right? Because you're like stumbling and fumbling and it's awkward and, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. Those words actually came out of my mouth. And, you kind of find yourself in these scenarios, but there's a way to run with it. So we're going to kind of talk through that today and what that can look like, because it's part of life and it's nice to know how to handle it gracefully, because there's just going to be times where you feel awkward. And one of the topics that kind of comes to mind as we're talking through this whole awkwardness is the comparison, the tendency to compare ourselves to others. I'm like, man, how do they handle it so well? And how can they be in that scenario and they don't seem embarrassed at all or they don't seem awkward at all? It's different for all of us. So there's going to be scenarios, like even for myself, I'll find there's times where I'll go to a social event and I feel like the social butterfly and I'm just floating around and talking to people and, mingling and making sure that everyone feels like welcomed at the event. And then there's times where I'll show up at an event and I feel like the most uncomfortable wallflower and I just want to sit on the edge and like awkwardly observe and hope that no one sees me because I feel so uncomfortable and awkward. So even with one person, there's different times where I'm like, what did I do differently at that event? And why was I like this at this event? But don't compare, because at the end of the day, when you find yourself in an awkward scenario, it doesn't matter that someone else wouldn't be awkward in that scenario, because right now you are awkward in that scenario. So let's handle that one, right? Okay, so a few things come to mind. One that is immediately in front of me is doing like Facebook Lives, or when you're in the middle of a conversation with someone, right? There's no way to go back and edit what you've said or what you've done. You just said it or did it live. So there's that, and you can't undo it. So one of the easiest ways I have found to actually address that and bring the grace to it is to actually address it and not try to sweep it under the rug or be like, well, no one saw that, right? So we're good. No one heard me say that. Please, hopefully. Oh my goodness. I hope no one saw me say that or heard me say that or saw me do that. But when you just address it and you just call it out and you're like, well, that was pretty awkward, what I just said, wasn't it? Oh dear. Well, it helps break the tension. It allows you to acknowledge what you said. And, sometimes the awkwardness is saying something that, inadvertently hurt someone's feelings, or it just did not come out right. And so you said something, but the way it came out, you're like, that's really definitely not what I was trying to say. That's just the way it came out. We've all had moments like that. And so it gives you the chance to articulate it differently. It gives you the chance to actually just head on confront it and say, okay, well, wow, that didn't go as I planned. Let me try that again. And then you can readdress it and try it again. And usually you can bring it back around and save it, so to speak. So that's the easiest. That's the easiest, is to just address it. And I know sometimes it feels super uncomfortable to acknowledge how awkward it was that you totally just put your foot in your mouth. Been there, done that. But go with it, run with it, just address it and just say, well, okay, I'm going to try that again, because that definitely did not come out how I was planning on it coming out. And make light of it, kind of allow yourself to bring humor to the situation. Use your good judgment. There are times where humor in the situation is not appropriate. So use your good judgment, but still allow yourself to address the scenario and call it out. Another scenario that comes to mind as far as being awkward, just pulling from real life here, because I've had plenty of these moments. So speaking to people live and recovering from words or actions that didn't totally come out right. And then dancing is another one that comes to mind. So I used to hate going to weddings because I knew that they would have dancing. Weddings have dancing. And I didn't want to dance. I didn't want to do that because I felt awkward, because in my head, and this is where I think a lot of this is just self-defined, because there are things that someone will do that are they would feel so awkward about, but other people are that was actually really cute, or totally endeared to that person because of that scenario or how they handled it. In my head, if you weren't really, really good dancer, you had moves that you could just bust out. You see people when they do the moonwalk or the robot or some cool thing where they're actually really good at it. And you're okay, that was amazing. I don't know how to do any of that. So in my head, that meant that I wasn't a good dancer. And that meant that I would stand out on the dance floor and ruin someone's wedding. I took it to such an extreme of there's no way, I cannot possibly, I'm so awkward when I dance. But what it boiled down to, and what I actually came to realize over time when I really started looking at it, because it was ruining me. I would go to weddings and be nervous and uncomfortable the whole time that dancing was going on, because I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't want to go on the dance floor, but everyone was on the dance floor. And so anyway, so I'm just going to break that for people right now who are in that what do I do, is just own the moves that you have Like, even if they're totally goofy. And you guys, I dance now whenever there's like, I love dancing. It's so much fun. And so I will dance when there's music on, and I don't have like, I have the same dance moves as like a 45-year-old man, just like awkward and totally like, you know, old fashioned and just like not really dance moves, but they're on beat and they're ones that I can repeat. So, oh, goodness. I didn't get as much sleep last night. I was hanging out with a couple of night owl girlfriends last night. So, sleep was not to be had as frequent as normal. But what I really came to realize about the dancing habit, that's not the dancing activity. Sure, we'll run with it. Is that I really was feeling like uncomfortable because I was looking back and remembering there were days in my younger years when I would do like church plays and we would have choreographed dance moves, and I, for whatever reason, I can hold a beat and I can like dance along and do my own moves and make them up as I go, and they're like, they might be lame, but whatever, they're fun and they're easy and they're like, I can make them as accentuated as I want, take as much room as I want, or I can keep them simple to myself and just kind of like sway, do whatever. But in my head, I kind of locked away, Susan, you're not good at choreographed dancing. And then I started getting like, oh my gosh, what if I'm supposed to know like a certain move? What if a song comes on that everyone knows the dance to? There's like a few, like the Macarena, or there's like the Electric Slide, or like those songs. And I thought, oh my gosh, like those ones make me nervous. And so I would already preface it and put myself in the nervousness of like, what if that song comes on and I don't already know the moves? Because heaven forbid you learn something new and have fun trying. But that was like a belief that I really had locked in my mind. And so it made it 10 times more awkward because I was thinking through all the what if scenarios that I guarantee you no one else was thinking about when everyone was on the dance floor. No one else was thinking, oh my gosh, if Susan doesn't already know the dance moves to this song, she's going to be so awkward and so embarrassed. No one was thinking that, but I was thinking it, so I made a huge thing of it in my head. So just know that, one, you're not alone. Like, we all have our awkward moments. And a lot of us like preemptively think through, okay, if that were to happen, how would I handle it? Oh my gosh. Like, what if that scenario took place? And oh dear, what would I do? And we like make ourselves go through the scenario that's likely not going to happen anyway. So then we're worrying about scenarios that don't even happen, which we've all heard that expression, like 99% of the things we worry about don't actually end up happening. And so we're stressing about things that are not even real. So don't do that, but embrace it. Like, when you see me dance, you will know they're awkward dance moves. Like, they're not well coordinated. They're not like you probably wouldn't pick me to be on like your hip hop dance team, but I embrace it and I go with it. And you know what? Then other people join in and they have fun, and it kind of gives that freedom to other people to like, it's fine if you look goofy on the dance floor. Like, the dance floor is for enjoying and having fun and celebrating. People just got married. And like, I guess that's mainly the dance floors I find myself on are at weddings. So celebrate it. Like, enjoy it. Be awkward. If you go back and look at any of my Facebook lives, you will see there is an awkward moment in everyone. And just roll with it. Just run with it. Just go with it. Because you know what? At the end of the day, none of those awkward moments are actually going to like cause someone, it's not going to change the trajectory of someone's life that I had an awkward moment. So don't hold on to it, and don't let it define you. Just because you have awkward moments doesn't mean that you're like an awkward person. And just enjoy it. Like, I think of some of my dearest friends and their quote unquote self-defined awkward moments, And each one of them is like actually really endearing and so cute. And it's like part of their charm. So embrace it in that way and let it be just like, okay, well, maybe instead of calling it an awkward moment, maybe you just decide, I just had a charming moment. Isn't that cute? It was real charming, let me tell you. But it was charming. So embrace it and just run with it. Just go with it. Acknowledge it, call it out. And, if you decide to take time to look back over time of like, where did this stem from? Like, why do I feel so awkward in these scenarios? Then let yourself go there and overcome that. Because there's no sense in living with this unnecessary stress of, oh, I just had an awkward moment. Oh dear. It's okay. Go with it. Run with it. You are adorable and charming. So with that, we're going to end this week's 4th of July Growth and Grace special. We'll see you next week, every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another episode of Growth and Grace. See you then.